What's up, guys? How's everyone doing today? It is Wednesday, July 29th, 11:15 a.m. here in beautiful Sydney, Australia, wherever you are in the world. I say welcome. The the fight's start in a couple days. So, a lot of film study over the last 24 hours, continuing on our hot streak, working towards a fourth consecutive week of just being on absolute fire. This is once again another one of these weeks in which there's a few fights that will divide the public discourse, which is always great because it's exciting, depending which side of the coin you're on. Now, if you guys haven't joined our Discord, I'll leave that link pinned. It's a couple bucks a month. Join our professional betting. It's really an academy. It's a pro sports betting Discord. We're approaching our year anniversary in 2 days. We're also approaching 600 VIPs. You can either join on YouTube. If you join on YouTube, you see the boys in the chat. They have a colored star by their name. These are VIPs. You get more access to the live streams. You get comments answered, all that good stuff. But more importantly, you become part of our community. If you signed up on YouTube recently and you're not in the Discord, email me. Also, there are including our quarterly parlay and our July and August parlay that started a month and two ago. There's 6 tickets that are live. But going into this week, you guys have I just posted my UFC dog. You have my boxing dog of the week, my UFC triple, and then I did a boxing quad. All of them are plus money. Waiting for props to open up. We'll bring the odds up in a second. If you join on Patreon and you're not in the Discord, DM me on Patreon and check the Patreon members only posts. You'll see all my tickets there. We're a growing community. I appreciate all the positive messages I've been getting about everything. Hopefully you guys are on the winning side of things as well. Remember also, you don't have to bet on every single fight. The longer you're in the game, I think it's important for you to develop a skill of being able to pick and choose which fights to bet on versus betting on all of them. Sometimes our best bets are the ones we don't make. I'll leave the link pinned here, and I'm going to get to the boys, and we'll bring the odds up. All right, guys, let's do this. Youngin, what's up, Moonshot? Appreciate you. Favorite time of the morning. Yeah, it's been because I'm a coach too, so I run a strength and conditioning business out of my home gym, and everything's growing. You know what I mean? Like I made a promise to myself a couple years ago to stop taking new clients from that perspective, so I could focus on growing this business. And people are kind of coming out the woodwork. So these are great issues to have because I like helping people. My whole passion with even this, as you guys know, I don't frame this as betting. Of course, we bet. I frame this as community building, education, teaching the strategies of betting, and helping everybody win. You know what I mean? As a team. So appreciate you, youngin. Johnny, it's Mac. What's up, Mac? How does Raymond Moritaya win? What's up, Mac? Now, let's just pull it up. Let me see if I have odds on that. Moritaya impressed a lot of us in his last fight. Moritaya is one of these champions that people always knew he was good. Some guys sort of hit their ceiling at the high level, and some guys keep adding levels. So with Moritaya, in terms of his determination, he was much sharper than I remember against Andy Cruz. Did the film study on him, and if you watch even a few fights up until the Andy Cruz fight, Moritaya's shots weren't that sharp, and weren't as crispy. So I fully expect, especially with his, the camp that he comes from, the game plan's going to be on point. I haven't looked at the odds. I'll check them with you right now. Obviously, I think we all probably have Ray on a parlay, depending on what your odds are. Yeah, the odds are crashing. And dude, Conceição is a legit world-class fighter. Don't write Conceição off. I think Conceição is going to be really competitive. I think Conceição as an 8-1 dog is super disrespectful. I think this is more like a 4-1. 8-1's crazy, isn't it? And the odds. So I went to bed last night not getting the odds, and now they're right in front of me. So if you're putting me on the spot, so I do have Ray on a parlay. I got him on Monday at $1.14. $1.09 is, $1.09 is like at the basement of what I like to play. Depending on the week and depending how many options we're getting on fights to choose from, sometimes I'll just pass on $1.09 because you're getting $9 on $100 bet, and sometimes I'll use it. But it is at the bottom. I kind of have my perimeter of like anything under $1.10. I'm not going to even put in a parlay. But week to week, it does matter depending on the action. Now, do I think he's going to stop Conceição? Let me check. You know what? I'll probably do a prop. I'll do a prop parlay this week. I haven't done a prop parlay in a couple weeks because those are always riskier. And maybe that's why we've been hitting like 95% of our tickets because I got a little bit more strategically. All tickets are still plus money, but I got a little bit more strategically back in the pocket. You know what I'm saying? When you're doing props, they're obviously going to be risky. And like all I'm gonna say here is when you're dealing with a Hobson Conceição, you got to understand his pedigree. The kid was an Olympian, world class fighter, never been stopped. So he is 37. Off jump, he's coming off a UD win. He has been active. He fought this year. He fought once in 2025, and then he lost that split to Shock. Yeah, he's probably most known for those two fights back to back with Shock. I thought it was absolutely horrendous that they gave Conceição that first fight. I had Shock Foster winning 8-4, I think. But to think that Morataya, right now, my instinct would say Morataya on points, right? My instinct. That's not my official play, but that's what I like as a refresh. So if I had to pick a prop right now, I would start Morataya on points. It is only Wednesday. And then with your film study, do your work, Mac, and maybe, either force yourself to see a stoppage or force yourself to play the more conservative route and take the $1.79. Luis, what's up, buddy? Healthy debate on Discord. Yeah, we need that. What's up, Rock? We need the healthy debate on Discord, man. This is where our moderators do an excellent job. Even with almost 600 people in there, I think that the message from the live streams of us doing this, people are coming to the Discord from these live streams and from my Instagram, and it doesn't take them long to realize that we're not a casual community. We're coming at it from research based. There are going to be fights that'll get emotional. We saw that last weekend. And this Zepeda Roach fight will bring out the emotions in bettors as well. So, but for the most part, and I stand on this, there aren't many places online where you could get a collective group of a couple hundred people and disagree on boxing and do it in such a way to where you're not feeling like uncomfortable about it. You could disagree. Shout out to Doovie Kid. Doovie Kid's an OG JSB insider. He's one of our guys in there that's will stream the fights for us. So, there's been times where we didn't order the pay-per-views or we weren't able to, if you can't get the fights, some of our boys will stream them in there. So he adds value there. And then he has a bit of a sharp eye with these 50-50 fights. In my opinion, Roach Zepeda is a 50-50 fight. And him and I disagree on it. And over time, him and I disagree multiple fights. But if he wins, I turn right to him and say, good on you. And I congratulate him. And if I win, he does the same thing. And I think that is the benchmark of a healthy community. I don't want everybody to agree. I don't want you guys to place bets simply because what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't read the future. What's up, bro? Actually, after extensive tape study, I'm going with O'Leary thoughts. I do like Pierce O'Leary. I did a little bit. I shared a little bit of my film study notes on my Instagram story, and I think I might have put them on YouTube, but I might have put them in the Discord. Mark Chamberlain at one time was famously Turkey Al-Ashik's favorite fighter until Mark Chamberlain fought Josh Padley. I'm pretty sure. Wasn't that Chamberlain that was that was Turkey's favorite fighter? Anyway, he's gonna be the taller guy. It's in Padley. It's in O'Leary's backyard. I like Pierce O'Leary, man. I from the tape I've seen, Chamberlain, I think, fights a little bit too aggressive for what his skill set is. Chamberlain is a brave guy. I think his shots are a little bit too loopy. I think he presents his style maybe a little bit more conquering than it really is. And I like O'Leary's technique. I like his counterboxing. I like O'Leary's jab. I think O'Leary's game plan will be it starts and stops with the jab, pick Chamberlain off when he's coming in, and then make him pay with his counters. Because O'Leary also has really good counterboxing. And it's in O'Leary's hometown, home country, Ireland. So, and this is another one of these odds fights. When you're looking at the odds, we give or take a 25 cents either way. I'll still call that a 50-50 fight. Wow, the odds are crashing. The odds are crashing. Pierce O'Leary was $1.79. So I think I got Pierce. I'm pretty sure I got Pierce O'Leary. So I put Pierce O'Leary on our long parlay dating back in June. So our quarterly parlay, which is June, July, and August. Pierce O'Leary's been on my parlays as soon as I saw those odds. So I created this one, and this is in our members only section. What date did I made this one? June 27th. So last month I got O'Leary at $1.74, and he's down to $1.49. That probably has a lot to do with, obviously, it's fight week and the fights at home. Mark Chamberlain at adult plus 185, though. I know there's going to be some dog hunters. For you dog hunters, I do have my dog. This isn't my dog, but he's live. Chamberlain's going to be in this fight. I don't think O'Leary, in a perfect world, O'Leary could make this look easy. O'Leary could pick and pop with the jab. O'Leary could be more accurate and catch Chamberlain and use Chamberlain's aggressiveness against him and domesticate him. But on the other hand, Chamberlain could make O'Leary uncomfortable, push him on the back foot, turning into a dogfight, overwhelm him. So I know some dog hunters. I know, shout out to Jay Knows Boxing. Jay's taking Chamberlain. And Jay knows what he's seeing too. So him and I disagree on this one. And it just goes to show you that it just depends on what you're looking at. I would probably say, if I had to take the whole pie chart, if every fight that I break down and there's like a pie chart of reasons why I'm taking a fighter, why I'm taking said fighter to win, and there's a 360-degree sort of circle, I mean, at least 20% of that circle for me on taking O'Leary is because he's the A side, because it's in Ireland. 20%. And it's kind of similar when I'm looking at the A side Golden Boy card with Zepeda as well, because that's another fight that's really close. So I know, if you like Chamberlain, plus 185 is a good play. I don't like Chamberlain. Salute all the way from the UK. Just found your channel recently. Made a little following. Nice, man. And made a little following some of your, but appreciate you, Mr. Miyagi. We appreciate your support. We're a growing community, man. Very international. There's people from all over, and we're only getting stronger. So I appreciate your support. Got 3 fights on my book so far: Roach, Morataya, O'Leary. Yeah, so it's going to be, so whatever bettors get it right this weekend, the bag will be made on those 2 fights. I feel there could be an upset here or there, but regarding where you see the Chamberlain O'Leary fight and the Roach Zepeda fight, I think Roach Zepeda will be closer, though. I think Roach Zepeda is more of a 50-50 fight, all things considered. So I think O'Leary, those odds are fair. I think O'Leary's the better boxer. I like Pierce O'Leary. I like his style. I think he has more. I think he has more tools as well. The bag's a bit deeper. That crowd's going to be electric. Decent card. All over the one of the the Fail brothers, the big long punchers. Ben Fail's on the card. If we get a knockout prop, there's always a chance to play a knockout prop on him. We've won money on Ben Fail and his brother by knockout before. They're nothing too heavy though. They're always going to be in these. These aren't perfect fighters, but these are UK level, Euro level, approaching Euro level sort of dust ups, which man, we get action every weekend. You know what I'm saying? We keep our minds sharp and our wallet even sharper. Christos, let's get this bread. This weekend, what's the pros and cons of William Zepeda fighting versus Lamont Roach? Okay. What's the pros and cons of William Zepeda's fighting style and for Lamont Roach? So, great question. And when we talk about Lamont Roach, this is a guy who, as of recent memory, will be known for the draws. A lot of people, when they watched the Tank Davis fight, they felt he won that fight. Draw. A lot, and I'm not picking sides here. I'm just telling you what history says. History books, it was a draw, right? And the Pitbull fight, people say he won that fight. The history books, draw. He was dropped in the Pitbull fight early. Now, the Tank fight, there was that moment of contention where I felt he dropped Tank, took a knee, should have been a knockdown, wasn't. If that would have been counted as a knockdown based off of the scorecards when the fight ended, Roach would have won. Now, on paper, his best performance, Lamont, was a fight in which he didn't win. So then you have to break down how did he operate against Tank? How did he operate? What was he doing versus what was Tank doing? And then when we look at that, how do we take that and apply it to William Zepeda? That's where the issue is. So Tank, we know he's not a volume guy. Tank is, he wants to use your aggression against you. He wants to make you pay for your mistakes. He wants to find the openings in your offense and then make you pay. It's what he does. Beautiful counterboxing, athleticism, quick speed, high fight IQ. Now, I think the reason why a lot of people left that fight on Team Roach is because Roach was a massive underdog. And when that fight got made, nobody was excited for that fight. And Roach made people excited for that fight because he was ultra competitive and he stood in the middle and was counterboxing Tank and was being really successful doing it. Catching, countering, back right hand, his backhand. And we really hadn't seen Tank lose many of those 50-50 exchanges. That, you know what I'm saying? We hadn't really seen in recent memory and 50-50 exchanges in the pocket, Tank being on the short end of the stick. And Roach was getting touched up too. It wasn't like it was all one-way traffic. It was competitive enough for people to be like, wow, Roach, those who know, been in the game, we knew, how good Lamont is, right? He's super skilled. And it's a cliche to say styles make fights. All right, so that's Lamont, and then, draw against Pitbull. William Zepeda, we haven't seen him since his first loss a year ago against Shakur Stevenson. Maybe you give him a couple rounds. This is Shakur Stevenson. This is a guy, though, in Shakur who, when you look at the punch stats, almost equaled Zepeda's output and landed more by a small fraction. Why did this happen? Because Shakur, with his such mastery of defense, was able to take the ring and use Zepeda's aggression and his forward pressure and his output and make him pause and hesitate in these spaces throughout the fight. And they were all favoring Shakur. Shakur was winning every exchange. And it was very off of his speed, timing, reflexes, all that. Now, I think you would be ill-advised if you're a Lamont Roach gambler, if you're betting Lamont Roach. I think you would be ill-advised if you were to bet Lamont Roach by simply saying that, well, Shakur laid out the blueprint to beat Zepeda, so Lamont Roach could do the same thing. The reason why you would be ill-advised is because Lamont Roach, athletically, physically, but more importantly, as a boxer, is not Shakur Stevenson. They don't have the same style. By no means. Lamont Roach is not going to be a defensive wizard. He gets hit way more. He's not as fast. He doesn't have as good of feet, and he'll punch with you. Lamont Roach isn't going to move as much. We saw Lamont. I would watch Lamont Roach versus Pitbull because we saw with Pitbull you have a pressure fighter, swarmer sort of guy, and you saw how Lamont Roach dealt with him. He got dropped once, was winning exchanges, was a draw depending on how you scored it. Some people said Pitbull won, some people said Lamont won. Personally, I think Zepeda is a level above Pitbull. He's going to be longer, he's bigger, way more volume, he's more accurate. And this guy, when you think about swarmers, I mean, he is going to be a nightmare to deal with. Now, if you still think that Lamont Roach won the Pitbull fight and you think that he handles swarmers perfectly, and you might say, you might disagree with me, which is fine, and you might think that Pitbull's better than Zepeda, all right, then we'll just have to see it play out. I don't think I've never really rated Pitbull. I don't think he's as big of a puncher as people says he is. I don't think that, I just never really rated him. I get it. He's marketable, fan-friendly style. But in terms of the upper echelon of guys floating around 35 and 40, he's not in my top 5. I would put Zepeda in my top 5 of 135. Very near. Definitely above Pitbull. And having only one loss to the best fighter of his generation, one of them, Shakur, it's not a bad thing. And so I actually expect Zepeda to bring something new to the table. You can't go 12 rounds with a Shakur Stevenson and not take at least something with you. Now, when you watch Shakur versus Teo and Shakur versus Zepeda, those fights look totally different. Teofimo had way less success than William Zepeda. I only say that because I don't want to sound hypocritical on what I said. I think Zepeda should take something from Shakur because he shared the ring with him for 12 rounds in this upcoming fight. I think Teo, because he's getting ready to fight Rolly, how he lost to Shakur, that might not be the same. It might be more detrimental psychologically speaking, but that's a chat we'll have in the upcoming weeks. But that's kind of where I stand on that. I am in a 50-50 fight, leaning with the A side in Zepeda. I think he's going to have the more optically pleasing output in terms of the judges. I think that the numbers, I mean, this kid famously threw 1,500 punches in a fight. He's going to be working the entire time. Will Roach be able to take his elite counterboxing like he had against Tank in the pocket and be a sharpshooter for the entire time? We'll see. I'm banking that he won't. I definitely think Roach versus Zepeda to go the distance. Let's see what that's paying. Even that could be risky. Now, granted, I'm not the most well-versed over and under better. I tell you guys that all the time. You should know that. You're on my channel. I'm a guy who breads my butter, butters my bread with underdogs and parlays. I don't bet over and unders enough to sort of, it's not my thing. I know some guys love it. The distance does seem valuable. Put it this way. If I had to weigh the distance versus who's going to win, will the fight go the distance? 32%. What are you going to use that for? Parlay piece, okay? I could see a world where Zepeda stops Roach late. I'm not going to play it because I'm already getting Zepeda on the money line at plus money. But $1.32 for the fight to go the distance, that's going to, Zepeda has 27 knockouts. Like 80% knockout to win ratio. He's a different type of puncher. He's a volume guy. He's going to break you down, break you down, break you down. And the only guy that style didn't work against was Shakur. And that's fine. But I don't put Roach in even the same atmosphere as Shakur. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a negative thing. I don't think before the Tank fight, I don't think any of you guys would have even put Roach in the same atmosphere as Shakur before the Tank fight. But Zepeda fought Shakur for his title because that's they met there. You know what I'm saying? His career trajectory took him there. Roach is a great boxer, very well rounded, technical, a dog. Sometimes my issue with Roach is that he's a slow starter, and I think that being a Golden Boy card. Now, when you look at the box rec, you'll see Johnny, but it says top rank, and it says a couple other. Those it's multiple promoted, but this is a Golden Boy card, and Zepeda is the Golden Boy A side, and you got to think Roach not being the biggest puncher, Zepeda's probably going into the fight. You guys won't want to hear this. He's probably going into the fight up 3-0. You know, the fight's probably starting 30-27 Zepeda. And so when you think that, and I don't think there's a world where Roach knocks Zepeda out. So then if he's going, and these are just the politics of the game, if he's already starting 30-27 and Roach isn't a known big puncher, you know, Roach is then going to have to win a lot of these close rounds on the judges' scorecards, get a couple knockdowns for him to win a decision in my book. And I'm not betting on that. And I'm getting Zepeda at plus money. That's insane. So we talked about this yesterday. A durable Mexican whose only loss is to one of the generation's best fighters. The A side, who's a volume swarmer at plus money. This is a boxing community. This is a betting community. This isn't a fanboy community. So I'm coming at it from a different angle, guys. And you guys know that. That's why we're growing. So that's my take. It has nothing to do with who Lamont is or who Zepeda is. It's everything to do with how we make money on this fight. I don't mind the distance. I feel comfortable taking Zepeda as the dog. I think it goes the distance as well. I wonder what the odds will be. $1.35. There you go. Zepeda versus Roach is going to be a competitive fight. Yeah, it's 50-50. Terrell, let's go the distance. The boys are up. Hobson's 37. Recently moved up to 35 to fight young power puncher right now. Lean at stoppage. Get him, Jay. I think Moritaya will knock out Hobson only because the weight will take a lot from him. Conceição's 37. And out of shape Navarrete dropped Conceição twice. I think Moritaya stops him. He's going to make a statement. Moritaya was sharp, man. The one thing, like, you guys you don't have to be fans of fighters, but I think it's important, and I think we do this. One of the things we do well as a community is that we acknowledge, even if it's a fighter we lost money on or a fighter we acknowledge if something looks right. Moritaya was sharp against Cruz. Like, he looked to me like this kid leveled up. And he's mean. You know, he has that mindset that I could cheer for. So I don't mind Julius's take, the stoppage. But, you know, I played, you know, I haven't really given it a lot of thought. Put on the spot. Yeah, I don't have a play on it yet. What's up, high interest? We up. How do you determine props? Like, how would you predict if a fighter gets a knockout or not? So basically, it's a great question. How you would determine the outcome of a fight is all about stylistic matchups, the trajectory of each fighter in their career, how long the fight is it an 8-rounder, 10-rounder, 12-rounder? What did each fighter look like in their previous fights? Is the fighter a boxer puncher? Is he a slugger? Is he a counter boxer? What's his volume? Has said fighter ever been stopped? Is said fighter super durable? Sergey Derevyanchenko last week, 16-6, never been stopped. So the move was you get Jaleel Hackett on the money line at $1.70, but you catch him on points at plus, I think, 200. That fed families. It's gonna be a sweat though. No matter which way you dice it, if you're making your money, if you're living by the sword, dying by the sword, meaning that you're a prop bettor, you probably have gray hairs when you're my age. See, I don't make my money. I don't keep the lights on by betting props. I keep the lights on by finding dogs. You guys know that. When I'm betting props, it's like a half unit. My bankroll's overflowing. You can tell when I'm getting cocky with my predictions. Like, we're getting there because we're on a freaking roll. Like, if you've been here since January, we hit January, February, March, 3 months in a row. Crazy. By April, I'm doing 4-play knockout props paying 1,400, getting arrogant. You know what I'm saying? And then the last week of May, and then 2 weeks in June were very humbling for us. I think the whole community. And then, I had to rein the ego in, and then we're back on a roll. So it just depends on where you find your success. You got to do your homework. If you're just, guessing how the fight's going to end based on the odds, that's not a good way to go. Because look what Shiraz last weekend against Simon Zacknuber. Shiraz was $1.15 to stop him, and that's why he appeared on his knockout appeared on one ticket of mine, and I picked 1-6, and even 1-6 was only paying $1.79. People were throwing the $1.15 knockout on all their parlays, and guess what happened? Fight went the distance. So if I'm ever going to throw a knockout prop on a parlay and I'm going full unit, it's not paying $1.15. So there's so much strategy around this question, but it's a great question. Hopefully, if everything I just said, Eddie, if you take one eyelash of something I spoke about and keep it, I've done my job. Raymond on points, -135. Have you looked into Paul Kroll or Aaron Cooley? I think Paul Kroll is being brought in. He's a 12-1 early 30s fighter from Philly. He's being brought in as the B-side, as Charles Conwell's get back. Charles Conwell, former Team USA guy. He was in a title eliminator. He was a massive favorite against Chino Garcia, Chino Perez, depending on which way you want to. He has a couple different names. And Conwell lost a split decision in which I had Chino up 8-4. It was crazy. They tried their best to rob Chino. And then that fight propelled Chino into a world title shot against Xander. So just because, that one, Conwell came in with such an A-list, how do I put this? Conwell came in for me. I left that fight just being shocked at how rudimentary Conwell's fight IQ was, or maybe that was his ego. Shout out to Marcus Knoll. He runs Ohio, runs boxing. We spoke about this before and after the Conwell versus Chino fight. And it was like Chino Garcia's craftiness, seasoning really troubled Conwell. Conwell thought he was just going to be able to bully Chino, out physical him, and stand there and make him punch with him. And Chino was countering him, fighting him off the ropes, frustrating him, turning him. And I had Chino up 8-4. They said it was split. I was like, oh, they're about to rob old homie. But they did their best to rob him. And this is Conwell's first fight since. I don't think there'll be much. Look, the kid's from Cleveland, Ohio, my neck of the woods. You get fighters from towns like Cleveland, Youngstown, Cincinnati, Philly, just gritty towns, farm towns in California, small border towns in Texas. Any town, usually low economical towns create the best boxers internationally, right? It's a way out. He seems like one of these guys that isn't going to be deterred by his first loss. He's probably going to be coming back motivated. He's 28 years old. The kid could crack. He has all the skills in the world. I expect him to put on a show. I have Conwell on a parlay, and hopefully I answered your question. Roach versus Zepeda, I do think it's 50-50. Thoughts on McKenna on points? I want to parlay it with more. That fight goes down in a few weeks, Mark. So Terrence McKenna is one of Terrence McKenna, the fucking I used to be a hippie. If you don't know, Terrence McKenna was a mushroom guy. He wrote a book called Food in the Closet. Aaron McKenna, I digress. Aaron McKenna is one of my favorite fighters at 160. I think he's a potential world champion. I haven't got props yet. He is on one of my parlays. Hey man, do you have both Aaron McKenna and yeah, I do. I don't know about points. I put Aaron McKenna. Both are on parlays. I didn't prop them. Gary Cully. Yeah, bet that fight at your own risk, boys. I'll show you why. Guys, we're 35 minutes in. We're floating between 80 and 100 in this live stream. The live stream numbers have been great, guys. It's insane. We're approaching getting close to 29,000 subs on YouTube, which is insane. I remember when I was at 400. It's why I tell all you boys who are starting to be content creators in our universe, in our group, I'll help you out. I'll do what I can to help you grow. Just do yourself the favor. And if you really love the game, don't quit. Don't quit. I mean that. I remember when I had 400. And I know 29,000 subs isn't a lot compared to massive people, but I never wanted, like, my goal was never that. My goal was this, talking boxing every day with like-minded people. Don't let the numbers deter you from creating what you love to do. Remember that. Gary Cully fight, bro. Gary Lee Reeves. Have you done your homework on these guys, Eddie? Have you done? All I'm gonna say is Eddie. I'm gonna scroll past this comment and catch up to the chat. In your next comment, let me know a more specific question. Do you know about their careers? Do you know about Cully's trajectory, where he's come from? Do you know about Lee Reeves, where he's come from? And then I'll get back to you. What's up, Damu Brat? 440 Joel's Uncle or Unks, we up. Guys, what are these Joels? You guys have been sending me Joels, man. I appreciate it. I never heard of them. These are something new, I think, on YouTube. What's up, Wish? Callum Walsh, good parlay piece with PETA points and O'Leary moneyline. Scared to touch Callum Simpson. Yeah, so Wish, I said this in our Discord. Let me pull the Discord up real quick. So we had, like I said, we're approaching our year. We're approaching our year anniversary of our JSB Discord, and it's all pro sports, but we have everything from F1 racing to tennis. But obviously, the only rooms I go in, the only channels I go in is boxing and MMA. Now, throughout the year, okay, I just want to see what the boys are saying. All right, so boxing. Throughout the year, we've had 2 or 3 fights that have caused generational meltdowns in our Discord. 2 or 3 of them. One of them was when Caleb Plant lost. My bad. That was, we didn't have the Discord then, but the Caleb Plant when he lost to Armando was crazy, but the Discord wasn't up and running yet. One of those fights was Callum Simpson to Troy, to where we all needed Callum Simpson on multiple parlays, and he lost. Now, I learned a very valuable lesson since then. I stopped adding massive favorites into multiple parlays. So I actually took a positive lesson from Callum Simpson burning 4 of my parlays. Thousands of dollars were left on the table. And that lesson was, if he's $1.10, use him once and move on. And if he loses, oh well. To see how he lost and how big of a favorite he was against Troy and the story of that fight, I'm not betting on that fight. I still have PTSD from that fight. My bro slips. Speed of this parlay relies on Noah. Okay, so we do these Discord polls. So who's winning? So the Discord right now, and there's only 2. Oh, there's not a lot. 24 votes, 19 hours left. 44% has Zepeda. 46%. It's a dead heat. Look at that. How that's pretty dope. The poll just started an hour ago, but of 24 people voting, Roach and Zepeda has the group exactly cut in half. Any thoughts on is that Gio Santillan fighting a Basparal? Did that just get announced? Am I tripping? Is that Gio who fought Rocha? And then Rocha fought Brian Norman Jr.? When's the last time is that Gio Santillan? We cover so many fights, guys. We cover all the fights. He's still 35-1. Yeah, no, that was Gio. Gio went in as the dog against Rocha and stomped him. That's how the story went. And then he goes in as the favorite against Brian and then gets stopped. And then he's rebuilt himself. He knocks out Frederick Lawson, wins a decision over Villa, and he's coming off a fight in January against kind of a roadster, and he won on points. I'm not getting the fight yet. It's not on BoxRec. I'll check the books. Zepeda points. DLH not letting Roach leave with that belt on a glowing boy car. Hang that in the tree. But how does Roach is going to have to fight uber aggressive. He's going to have to get on his front foot, which he can. I said earlier, one of my issues with Roach is that he's a slow starter. The other issue I have with Roach is that he fights at times in 50-50 exchanges. Now, his success against Tank he has great timing. And he had Tank's range. Sometimes Roach punches with his opponents. And he fights sometimes like he's a big puncher. If Roach had a little bit more power, we'd be taught like it, his if he had a little bit more power, he's a real good fighter. Good timing, good counters, good fight IQ, good skills on the inside, on the outside. Sometimes, I think it's going to come down to the volume and output. So if that's going to be the case, does Roach to win against Zepeda either A, need to stop him, or B, need to have a couple knockdowns, which can happen with that beautiful timing, Zepeda. But it's not like Zepeda just runs in unintelligently. He's doing it like he's not running in like Pitbull runs in, showing you the same looks. He's kind of, and he's way sharper than Pitbull. He's just very stressful style. Very stressful style, Zepeda's. It's a great fight, guys. So depending on where your money is, I mean, it's a joy. I'm excited about, like, as a fan, it's a great fight. We've had some great fights as of late, boxing. I'm excited to see these guys. Right there, it's for a world title. It's for that vacant world title at 35. That 35 division's insane. Super stacked. So many fighters at 135. So many matchups to talk about. So many potential fights to make. The winner becomes a world champion. And I don't even think the loser falls that much behind, because I think they're both that good. I don't think this is one of these matchups where the loser is going to have to rebuild themselves from a deep hole in terms of fighting for big fights again. They both have a name. They've both been in there with world-class opponents. Even the loser, I feel, will be in a big fight in their next fight. Pearson Ammo. I think Ammo is easy money against Vito. We talked about this. Ammo right now, I think, is $1.75 on the money line. That fight's in a couple weeks. Fight to go the distance, Roach Zepeda. What's up, King? Distance for sure on Roach Zepeda. Neither of them have power, overwhelming skills against the other to get a stoppage. I mean, okay, let me remind you then. Because I've been hearing this misconception all week, and I had to remind the boys. Now, it's not your, one punch. It's not your one punch knockout power. But I don't know why people are saying Zepeda can't punch. He has an 82% career knockout to win ratio. Of his 33 wins, 27 of them are by knockout. And this has nothing to do with you, Barry, but have you guys really watched William Zepeda fight? Because we have volume punchers, we have swarmers, but people are kind of like, what I'm getting the gist of, both in the boxing forums, the comment sections, not including our community, and in our Discord, is that, because this is like, Barry's like the fifth person I had to show. Like, I was like, dude, Zepeda, now he's not a one-punch knockout guy, so he's getting his knockouts because people can't hang with him. And he did, the 6-round set. I mean, he knocked Jojo Diaz 12. He gets late knockouts, but he did stop, Arboleda in the second. He stopped Maxie Hughes in the fourth. He stopped Jesta in the sixth. Like, he could punch. It's not like, watch him fight. Zepeda could punch because he's long and he has sort of that wiry power for 135. So it's not like he's not just a guy that is going to throw a lot of punches, he can punch. And he has good timing. He's technical. He gets, he'll get hit on defensively. Obviously, there's going to be some issues, but he's not completely defensively flawed because, if you're moving as much as he's moving, he's not a stationary target. That perpetual movement alone will help play a role in a little bit promoting your defense. He's not like he's just standing there with his hands down getting pot shotted. So that's why I'm not 100% to say the fight's going the distance. Randall's last fight was at 68. Now he's cutting back to 47. I could see Curiel showing levels with a stoppage. I don't hate that at all. Are you getting props on Curiel by stoppage? Jay? Jay, what's your content looking like this week, bro? Are you going live? What videos are we going to be expecting? You got to let me know and I'll share them on my socials. Shout you out. Yeah, I'm not getting props. If they do drop, I'll let you know. Johnny, you doing a knockout prop of the week? Raymond knockout odds just dropped. I think it's time. I'll do I did have a little prop triple I was thinking about. And it pays plus 1,000, but I haven't gone live with it yet. I needed to talk to you boys first. This is the best part of what we do because it's an ongoing conversation. So I did do a proposed bet. It pays plus 1,000 for 2 of the UK fights and a fight on the Golden Boy card. I'll let you know. All right, Jay. Oh, this is Jay's take. And look, we respect Jay. We respect Julius around here. O'Leary never fought a power puncher. Chamberlain stopping Glenn really shows me. Chamberlain stopping Gavin Glenn. Okay. I don't like how loopy Chamberlain punches. I don't like how aggressive Chamberlain is. I don't like the gaps he has in his defense. I don't like how high his chin is. I actually think in this matchup, O'Leary being a few inches shorter is going to help him. I think O'Leary's the more accurate puncher. I think O'Leary has the better jab. I think O'Leary has the better counterboxing. I don't see it, man. I don't see the Chamberlain thing. But you'll look like a genius if he comes through. Is Matush a lock? We're talking UFC now, Alien. So guys, we're gonna bring back our UFC only live stream tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll be going live twice, once in the morning, and then I will be doing a UFC only live stream at 1:15 Sydney time, to where we could talk about just the UFC card. Serbia. I was this close to going to Serbia to embrace my Slavic roots, but the price were the flights were absolutely shocking. Flying from Sydney to Serbia was fine. It was flying from Belgrade back here. I'm talking I couldn't find a ticket from Belgrade to come back for under 7,000. I was like, hell no, hell to the nah. Zepeda struggled with Farmer. Farmer is a former world champion. Farmer is world class. Farmer is a dog, dude. Farmer is really crafty. In Farmer's prime, he beats most everybody in the world. Tevin Farmer's a beast. And Zepeda won those fights. You got we have revision. Tevin Farmer's a dog, dude. If you're just gonna judge him on his record or just judge him for the first round knockout against Floyd, go ahead and do that. But that doesn't erase the version of Tevin, his career, his trajectory, his accolades, and how he fought Zepeda. Tevin Farmer is a nightmare to deal with for a lot of fighters, mate. Very, very, very skilled fighter. Is Tevin Farmer in the same atmosphere as Shakur? No. I put Shakur here and everybody else. Shakur is one of my favorite fighters. I think Shakur is already a Hall of Famer. He's already a 4-division world champion. Shakur is 28 years old. 28. Has won world titles at 26, 30, 35, and 40. 28 years old. I didn't even talk about his style. I didn't even talk about that he doesn't get hit. I didn't even talk about his timing. I didn't even talk about the obvious. And, he fights the one fight super negative against De Los Santos, which he won, but it doesn't age well considering what Ryo did to De Los Santos. But allegedly, Shakur had hand injuries, which I'm not going to judge a fighter when they say that. Watch Shakur against Zepeda. Fought him totally different. Watch Shakur. People think Shakur is a back foot, negative, use the whole ring fighter. No. Shakur is a front foot counter boxer. Shakur is slick defensively. I put Shakur and then everyone else. We out here listening to this in the work. Let's go, Stat Forge. Stat Forge in the house. Let's get it. I know a lot of people don't like Shakur, but it's all good. I'm a fan. Look, I'm a fan of technicians. I'm a fan of sort of people who are masters in anything, whatever they do, whether it's art, building, architecture, boxing. Like I could get past. I'm looking. You step into a ring and you learn how to box and you take a fight, and then you realize how hard it is to manage range, and then how hard it is to slip a punch, how hard it is to throw a jab from the foundation upwards, and then you watch what Shakur does at the world class level, and how he can negate world class fighters and just take their strengths away. Come on, man. Anybody who doesn't at least acknowledge how skillful Shakur is, they're just hating. I don't know. I feel like they might want to push Roach more star power. I disagree. I heard this William Zepeda's star in Mexico. Well, you just have to answer. Do you think a DC, Virginia area fan base? You think Lamont Roach has the fan base that a Mexican world champion would have? Think about those Cinco de Mayo cards. Think about Mexican Independence Day. William Zepeda has already been selling out arenas. He's you know what I'm saying? So I don't know if North America, the United States of America has a really hard time with getting behind their world champions in this generation. And you could get as political as you want about it. I would just minimize it as there's so many other things to pay attention to. There's so many distractions, everything from social media to the love affair with other pro sports. And football season's coming up, and then the NBA's coming up, and baseball, the World Series. So that sort of thing. When you have fighters from countries like, I was just at the Zoo Errol Spence fight. 22,000 people on a Sunday morning. 22,000. Freaking amazing. But we're a floating island in the middle of nowhere with only 22 million people, 26 million people per capita. So this is another reason why Ireland, that Irish card, is built around Pierce O'Leary, because that rabid fan base. So in terms of star power, a Mexican world champion at 135 pounds will generate much more revenue than Lamont Roach at 135 pounds. And I don't think that is controversial. Roach got bad cards 2 times, and people honestly think he's going to get a fair card on Golden Boy card for WBC belt. Come on. Y'all might as well be fighting. Yo, Cass is crazy. Yo, Cass is crazy. Same boys, I'm always in the truck. Youngin, Moonshot, you guys are in the truck. I got to get my trucker hat. Why would Golden Boy push a fighter that isn't there as Roach is a pro box fighter? Barry, get him. But Barry, this isn't the first time I heard this take. People were passing that take off in our Discord. People were messaging me on Instagram about wanting to push Roach. I'm like, all right, what is he, 31 now? I think Roach hits harder than Shakur. I don't know. Shakur has better timing. Shakur has better timing than Roach, way faster than Roach. I think you'd be ill-advised to compare Shakur and Roach in any facet of the game. 2 totally different style fighters. Shakur's a Hall of Famer. Lamont Roach is at the world level. That's how I'd put it. Punches harder. Lamont Roach doesn't butter his bread by punching hard. He's a very well-rounded, skilled, overall great boxer. I've watched his whole career. I like Lamont Roach. He's very coachable. He's very disciplined in there. He'll never quit on himself. To say that he hits harder, I mean, Shakur, he's won titles at 26. So he's kind of like a guy who, and he has hand injuries. So he's kind of a guy who isn't good. He's not known for being a huge puncher. I mean, saying you think Roach hits harder than Shakur, maybe, I don't know. I love winning on a good underdog. That's dude, that's how I keep the lights on. I always talk about this, Ricardo, is that because we don't have a season and we have action every single weekend, and you see on my screen here, we go over the fights. I think we've tapped into a cheat code in terms of betting. I only bet on boxing and UFC now. That's it. And it's like when we have boxing every week and they're giving us the Japanese, this is just in general. Like the last, we had the Japanese card, the Australian card, we had the UK card, we had another, we had Zuffa. And when we set the table every week and we're setting the table with all these cards, if I can't find you guys an underdog, if I can't double your money on every ticket, what are you guys hanging out with me for? Do you know what I mean? That's something that I take pride in. Is every single ticket, if it takes me 4 legs to build or a dog, will at least double your money. And if I can't find tickets week in and week out, like look at the receipts. Week in and week out. 5 tickets, 6 tickets, 5 tickets. Consecutively, we've been doing this for a freaking year. I think we got I think we got the business model down, don't you think? The proof is in the pudding, they say. If I can't find you with all the food on the table, a dog plus money, like what are we doing? And I think like I love it. You know what I'm saying? Now we do have to be reasonable. I think there is a fine line with wanting to be super sharp and finding like an 8-1 dog where the bookies got it wrong, and then it doesn't hit, and then like or you find an 8-1 dog and it hits, and then you get caught in this loop of the blinders, and you only seek those massive dogs. So I'm more about like 2-1, any plus money dog. But I'm not seeking out. I don't. It's not as you guys know. I'm not that radical about my approach. Like, is this plus 800 live? I wasn't looking at it. I wasn't looking at it as a plus 800 live. My approach is like, all right, what about this plus 110 here? It does depend on your bankroll as well, and what sort of streak you're on. I've seen Kroll fight a couple times. He could be out where Conwell beats him. Yeah, I think Kroll is being brought in for Conwell to beat him. Paul Kroll undefeated. No, Paul Kroll's 12-1, I think, isn't he? 31-year-old fighter out of Philly. I don't put Paul Kroll in the same category as Charles. People forget Austin Boxwell versus Vaquero, Shakur, and Valdez. Moving up won't force him to change his line on the division. Yeah, I think you're talking about Hobson. I like the distance. Ben Crocker fights this weekend. You guys are getting all the fights. I'm not getting these yet, boys. All right, back to my boy Eddie. I told him I'd come back to him. An hour in, 92 of you in here. Like the video. That's all I asked for. Gary Cully is tall as fuck. He's 6'1". His opponent's 5'11". Remember that. This fight is at 147. All right. Has fought better competition, but he seems to lose his flair since he got knocked out. Lee seems more fresh. Yeah, Lee's resume is absolutely atrocious. We know in boxing, guys, it's kind of like once you lose that aura, it's tough to get back. We're dealing with this with Timmy. Timmy lost that. Zoo didn't lose his aura against Fundora the first fight. The aura was still there. It was Bakram who swagger jacked him. Bakram swagger jacked that aura, and it's really tough to get back. And Cully, it happened to Cully. Now, I would never put Cully in the same category as Timmy. Timmy is a freaking legit world champion, beating Olympians, traveled abroad. When Timmy beat up Terrell Gachet after getting dropped early, when Timmy stopped fucking Tony Harrison and people were saying he was going to lose, I was at the Tony Harrison fight. When Timmy beat the brakes off of Mendoza, people try to have this revisionist history. Tim Tszyu, I also want to defend Tim Tszyu real quick. I heard somebody calling Tim Tszyu a Nepo baby. Just so you know, the last name is Tszyu, but his father abandoned him when he was 7 years old. So the idea that, because he had a secret family in Russia, so the idea that people are saying that Tim Tszyu is only where he is because of his last name, you guys don't know boxing, or if anything, you don't know Australian boxing or the story. Imagine being the son of boxing royalty, a boxing Hall of Famer, a living legend, and there's footage of you as a young kid, at his weigh-ins. You could see this footage. You could see videos of Timmy when he's like 6'7" at Costa's fights. And then what? No more footage. How come there's no more footage? Because Costa ran out on him. His dad left him because he had another family in Russia and left his mom here in Australia. So the idea that Zoo was given everything on a, yeah, granted his last name was Zoo, but if anything, having to fight in the shadows was probably just as hard as just building yourself from if your name was Jim Smith. And then people think about like the loss to Bakram and the losses to Seb and what he's looked like recently. Timmy's run from like 2021 up until the first Seb fight, electric, dude. Electric. So, some guys never have that run. Some great fighters never become world champions. So just remember that. One of my favorite, Benny Briscoe, one of my favorite, he's a golden era fighter, a middleweight from the 1960s and 70s, a Philadelphia legend. Benny Briscoe, one of the best fighters to never win a world title, legend. David Tua, never won a world title, one of my all-time favorite heavyweights. The history books will always say at one time, at 154 pounds, Tim Tszyu was a world champion. So I just want to say that. But the aura thing, Cully got knocked out. Against, would you call Jose Felix, he's 39-6. It was 3 years ago. He got steamrolled. His corner threw the towel in. I think he gets dropped a couple times in the third. The corner stops it. And then, he starts trying to rebuild himself. Fights an 18-1 guy, which was ballsy, going from getting stopped, your first L at home, fighting an 18-1 guy, wins a split, fights a 29-4 guy, wins a UD, loses again against Maxie Hughes by wide margins, and then fights a guy who's 17-17. He's 31 now. Lee Reeves, I mean, he's 16-1, but check this out. What are we doing? So I'm not showing you this because I'm telling you I'm betting on Cullen. I'm showing you this because I'm saying bet at your own risk. Jesus, this resume is awful. But so that bet at your own risk, brother. Gary Cully versus Lee Reeves. Y'all are wild. I got a bass beating Gio. It's going to be the pro box card. Venado Lopez is back. Shout out to Venado. We didn't know if we were going to see him. Is Zepeda dog live? No, I posted it. Guys, for all the JSB insiders on YouTube and Patreon, check your slips. I posted 4 tickets. You have my UFC dog, my boxing dog, my UFC triple, and my boxing quad. All of them are money line, or not all of them are plus money. There's 4 tickets. Now, last week we hit 5 out of 6 tickets. The week before we hit 6 out of 7. The week before that we hit 5 out of 6. And it could have been perfect the last 3 weeks. The Ruben Aguiar DQ will live in my head rent-free until I forget about it. That Ruben Aguiar DQ against Trigger Wiggins. Anyway, I'm probably going to give you at least 2 more. I might, I'm going to do a prop of the week, a boxing prop of the week. And then obviously for the sake of the boys, I'm going to have to pick an outcome. So just stay tuned. Why is Chantel Cameron plus 200 against Mankel Mayer? Roach. I believe there will be real dedication to the body. Chop that tree down. Watching his camp, he knows it's time to win. Can't leave it in the judge's hands. Chop that tree. I agree on the fact that he probably needs a stoppage or some knockdowns. My late August, September parlays, Ituama money line, Ammo money line, Najee. I love it, Mark. You're speaking to the choir with the Ammo money line. When you're looking at this, we covered this on the show last night. Ammo is a 77% return on the money line. I'm loving that. I'm going to play that soon as well. I'm going to play that soon. I'm not a Vito Melnicki believer. He's never been tested. We know about his father. We know about the production. We know about the promotion. Do your research if you don't. I mean, this is a kid whose dad, not that long ago, hijacked the Top Rank card and made the ring phone booth and brought in a journeyman to manufacture a knockout to propel Vito into a big spot. Vito couldn't stop him. Like, we're talking about Ammo Williams, a guy far from perfect, but he's been in there with world champions. He's been tested. He's been stopped, but he's never quit on himself. I'm going to bet on that guy. I think Ammo's a whole dog. And this will be the first fight that I actually take Ammo because I've won money multiple times betting against him. And I talked about this last night. As a bettor, when you're doing this long enough and you watch a guy come through, you've either won money on a guy, or sometimes it's time to fade a fighter. Say I faded Butler for the first time 2 days ago. Butler paid for my mortgage all of 2025. The Butler knockout prop, Eye of the Tiger. If you're unfamiliar with this, you guys got to start tapping in. Paid for my mortgage 2025. Because if you're paying attention, you know that Eye of the Tiger was manufacturing Butler as a knockout artist until they could take him abroad and get him in a big featured fight in America and get a big payday. Because the promotion gets a cut. This is part of my job teaching you guys. If you didn't know, a lot of you guys do know. So if you didn't know, this is part of how we bet, their strategy. And we know that Butler got knocked out against Berlanga, so it was time to fade him. And we all played Berlanga and the knockout. So with Ammo, on the other hand, it'll be the opposite. I've always faded Ammo. I mean, he's been tested. He's been in there tough, dude. This is a kid, comes into the sport late, super athletic, gifted physically, but when you're going against guys who walked into gyms at 6, 7, 8 years old, Dominicans like Carlos Adames, freaks of nature like Hamza Shiraz, you're going to be on the short end of the stick a lot of the times in terms of technique. In boxing, they call it the sweet science for a reason. Now, even though he got the dog shit beaten out of him against Carlos, I actually like I liked what I saw. He didn't quit. He was still punching. I feel generally a beatdown like that could deter a fighter psychologically. I don't think Ammo's that sort of guy. I think Ammo's going to come in, and I think he's going to want to make a statement against Vito. So I love Ammo in this spot. Timothy Briones, I feel it's a close fight. The judges might give the W to William. Yes, Zepeda. Zepeda breaks you down volume sub, but in terms of hurting you with a shot and getting you out of there, he's not. 82% knockout to win ratio will speak otherwise, though. And I do agree, he's not a one-punch guy. He breaks your spirit. Sucks Lamont is going to lose his fight after beating Davis and Pitbull, not getting the W. Now, do you really think... I don't know, man. I just rewatched Roach versus Pitbull. He gets dropped. He gave away early rounds. The stats were close. You really think he ran away with the Pitbull fight? The fight was announced 3 hours ago. You savage. Pitbull O'Leary. Be interesting. Whatever happened to Auntie Sco? Does anybody have any idea or updates on what happened to Auntie Sco? Where are they? Where are the Schofields? They just disappeared. Zepeda, bet the ring. Let's go. The Bears. I got a feeling this ring size for this weekend is about to be the size of a phone booth. This is kind of an interesting one, and this is up for debate. I'm very interested on your take on this because I've heard two sides of the coin. Does a larger ring? We know a smaller ring favors the puncher, right? and a larger ring favors the slickster. But which one favors the swarmer? Do you know what I mean? Or which one favors the counterboxer? Because, I've heard people say a counterboxer doesn't need a lot of space. But then again, a counterboxer will use that space and that negative space to find his opening. So it's interesting. I have to think about that. It's not as cut and dry as if these were big power punchers or big heavyweights. We know that the smaller ring would obviously tell the story there. But because the styles are so contrasted, Zepeda's not going to fight Roach how Tank fought him. And Roach, I feel, can't fight Zepeda how Shakur fought him. Roach doesn't have the feet. Roach doesn't have the skill that Shakur has. Very intriguing fight. What's your opinion on Vito versus Ammo, considering the fight is being held in his hometown? I think we covered it. Funny enough, Farmer was better than Zepeda, fought him, then he was in his prime. Shakur and Bud and everyone else. Did you get to taping the guys? I'm not betting on punk ass Scully. I'm not betting on a domestic level. The domestic level Brits. I think we covered this, right? If Cully can't beat your boy Lee, I think it's time to hang him up. Tevin, people are tripping on Tevin Farmer, right? Do you guys not know how good Tevin Farmer is and was? Tevin Farmer was a freaking nightmare, dude. It's so interesting. Maybe it's so interesting because maybe people are just looking at his win-loss record, or they just remember, recency bias, what happened with Floyd. But Tevin does so many things well. His angles, his timing, his sharpness, his quickness, his counterboxing. He was slick. He was awkward. Tevin Farmer, nightmare. I feel like Zepeda should have beaten Farmer a little more decisively, but Farmer did make more time. Dude, Farmer is so good, dude. Tevin Farmer, it's hard. That's why when Floyd kind of caught him cold and stopped him in one round, I was shocked. I picked Tevin to win that fight. And then where's Auntie at? Auntie just disappeared. Auntie Sco. More than Lamont, by the way, at 130. Yeah, this fight's at 35. Caleb was a disappointment. Morrell beat me down. We're not allowed to mention David. Don't ever bring up David Morrell around here again. I feel like if Roach really willing to sit on his punches and pick his spots, he can hurt Zepeda. Jojo Diaz a few times. Jojo Diaz is a former world champion. We got to remember Jojo Diaz, Team USA, former world champion. I know he's a bit older, long in the tooth now, had his issues outside the ring, bit of a punching bag. Fights at 147 now. But I mean, that's no shade. Lamont couldn't even convincingly beat Pitbull, who also had a blueprint on him. I rate Pitbull very low. Me too. I've always rated Pitbull very low. Canelo losing to Bivol was another parlay buster. Roach might not be Shakur, but stylistically he might match up better with Zepeda. I don't think so. I think the way Roach and Zepeda are going to match up is the way Roach and Pitbull matched up. And Zepeda is a level above Pitbull, and Roach struggled with Pitbull. A lot of people lost when you ain't never lying on that one, player. I got 30 on Roach versus Zepeda. Get it? What, 17-1, big boy? Do you have Makachev and Nurmagomedov winning? UFC questions. Thoughts on PFL tomorrow, boys. Didn't Roach break his hand last fight? They all break their hands, brother. Thoughts on Roach possibly get a third draw is insane. I mean, it'd be rude if we didn't sprinkle on the third draw, right, guys? I'm not like that. Shouldn't be your play of the weekend. It definitely shouldn't be your largest equity play. But it's kind of rude if you don't just sprinkle 10 or $20 on a draw, all things considered. I know guys are. I mean, depending on where your money's at, $100. I think it's 17-1. I'm not. It's not in my DNA to play draws. Just to like, I've never once put money on a draw. It's just competitive spirit. I'd rather go down in a burning ship with an L than sit and watch a fight and hope for a draw. That's just me. Why are you guys fixated on this Roach for Zepeda fight? I will pass. Okay. I do think Lamont beat Pitbull. He got dropped, but they also deducted a point for Pitt in the ninth. Yeah, after the fifth, sixth, Pitt slowed down a lot. Roach boxed him. See, that's the thing, though. Zepeda's not going to slow down. Zepeda throws way more volume than Pitbull. He's sharper than Pitbull. He has more skills than Pitbull. He's longer than him, taller than him. Changes the dimensions of the fight. Tevin Campbell's my guy. Tell me what you want me to do. My love is always here for you. I grew up with Tevin Campbell. You don't know nothing about that. Can we talk? Tevin before Schofield would likely beat Lamont. Tevin's a beast, man. People try to sleep. Sergio Maravilla. Wonder Kid. I don't know about stoppage, but I feel Roach can knock Zepeda down like a flash knockdown. Zepeda isn't going to get domesticated. He'll be fighting his fight the whole way. I think so. And this is why I said I started this and I'm going to end it. If Lamont Roach had a little bit more power, I think his career would look a little bit differently. With the 1L to Jamel in the draws as of late, not being able to get over that world-class edge, that world-class level, not really being able to break through the mainstream. Think about it, man. When the boxing fandom thinks he beat Tank, the face of boxing, I'm not saying I agree with that, but it should have kind of propelled him into superstardom. Didn't. And then he follows that up with another razor-close fight with Pitbull. I'm not saying he's not class, but if he had a little bit more pop, those outcomes could have been a little bit different. And why does that matter in this fight? Because I think because he doesn't have that little bit of extra pop, he's not going to have the power to deter Zepeda. What deterred Zepeda and changed the range of the fight against Shakur was Shakur's speed and timing. Roach does not have that. Not even close. Doesn't even have close to the speed, timing, or feet of Shakur Stevenson. So don't even compare that. Once again, the fight I would look at is Roach versus Pitbull in terms of stylistic matchups. And then maybe if you in Zepeda and rewatch the Zepeda and the Tevin Farmer fights. Nah, draws are great money once I see a B-side pulling out rounds. Okay, so now we're talking live betting, Barry. That's different. Yeah. Because I live in Australia, it's not that easy to live bet. I'm a bit of an introvert when it comes to, like, if I know you, I'll be like the life of the party. But if we're in public and I don't know people, I'm super quiet. Why I say that is because in Australia, to live bet, they make us call a hotline and talk to a human. So I don't do live betting. If live betting was as simple as it is where you guys are, to where you just press a button and not have to talk to a human, I'd be into live betting. I get it all it takes is one punch, but a lot of people talking like Roach will hurt Zepeda. Yeah, Roach is not a puncher. So Zepeda is class. He's been knocked down as well and got blown out 10-2 at worst. Bro, Shakur is the best fighter on the planet. Shakur, his style and his strengths defensively were a perfect neutralizer to Zepeda. Lamont Roach is not that. They fight two totally different styles with two totally different skill sets. Roach got pretty good timing. Now, I didn't say he had bad timing. I just didn't say he had timing like Shakur. And it's not hard to time Pitbull Cruz. Tank, I was impressed. Look, I got to tell you, what's Roach's best performance? What's Roach's best win? We're talking about a guy who his best wins are draws. You got to talk about it. There has to be logic here. I don't care if you thought he should have won a fight. What is Roach's best win? A draw. Zepeda has wins over world champions. If you want, if we're really dissecting that, and I also, Roach is a guy who floated up to 40, cut his teeth at 30. This fight's at 35. I don't know. I don't like his lack of power in terms of keeping Zepeda off. And Zepeda punches to the body too, guys. Yeah, I gave Zepeda at least 3 rounds against Shakur. So I gave Teofimo Lopez 0 rounds against Shakur. I wholeheartedly agree with this statement. Roach looked the best in his lower class before the Tank matchup. He was high horse out of. All right, guys, I got to run. We got a lot of work to do. Check your tickets, check your slips, share your film study in the Discord. Join our Discord by clicking join. It's a couple bucks a month. We're approaching, this weekend will be our year anniversary. Time to celebrate, baby, with some wins. Appreciate everyone here. Best community in the world. I'll stand on that.